This is Scott Becker with the Becker Private Equity and Business Podcast. We come to you daily with short business episodes, short private equity episodes, interviews with brilliant business and private equity leaders, and a lot more. Today's discussion is 8 stories that we're following today, and there's so much interesting stuff going on that we'll just try and go through a handful of those and try and keep it interesting. I'm going to start with some different individual stocks that I find fascinating. Again, my best advice on individual stocks is not to invest in them. It's fun for me to watch the volatility, but I'd rather do the index funds and take lesser volatility, even though I miss some of the big home run hitters, at least directly. But here are some of the stocks we follow and some things that we find fascinating. Lucid Motors is down another 9% today. They are fighting the fight to be a leader in the EV market as the big traditional automakers get better and better at this, and as sort of Tesla continues to rock on, even though it's struggling this year a little bit, and as Rivian moves on, Lucid is still having trouble finding their spot. And as one of my brilliant CFO colleagues said to me, they owe so much funding from the Saudis that ultimately they should be okay in some way or form, but still struggling now, down 6% today. And in terms of that CFO colleague, one of the most brilliant leaders in the EV world. And so that's that in terms of Lucid Motors today. The second story, Hanes Underwear. Hanes Underwear is up 6% today. And I noticed this because it's one of the top gainers today, but I also noticed it because I unabashedly love the Hanes undershirts and the Hanes underwear. I know that might be a little bit too much information, but some of my favorite product that's out there. Third, speaking of favorite product, and excuse me for this as well, this is inappropriate, Green Thumb is down 8%. It seems like the cannabis stores, the cannabis makers are hurting more and more of the mainstream, but their stock is still stuck in the mud and still not rocking and rolling. So we're watching that. Fourth, a stock that we follow every single day, and I think it's actually fascinating, is watching Walgreens down 6.5%. The latest threat seems to be pharmacy makers, pharmaceutical companies going direct to consumer. Walgreens continues to get on the chin. They've got to deal with this Village MD, their effort into clinical that's gone sideways, and then sort of become the very best at being a retail pharmacy chain. It seems to be their pathway, but what a fascinating challenge. That's the fourth sort of stock story we're following tomorrow. The fifth story we're following is Americans get much more pessimistic about the job market. This is concerning about our economy as a whole. When you see Americans get pessimistic and worried about the job market, that's a little scary to all of us and so forth. The sixth story we're following today, NVIDIA to report their Q2 earnings soon. That's sort of a bellwether for a lot of the stocks out there, the stock market, the technology stocks and so forth. It's above $3 trillion to get in market cap. It's amazing how they've come back, and we'll see how that goes. The next story we're following, number 7, is U.S. home prices hit a record high. Of course, if you end up doing this thing where you offer a subsidy to everybody for buying a house or first-time home buyer, all you're going to do is further drive home prices up versus down. You're not going to make them more affordable. It's like the old days when there's electric car subsidies. You might make more people to buy electric cars, but all they did was price up the electric cars. Now the subsidies are gone. The prices have come down some. It's just an artificial market creation and just bad
policy. And that's a separate discussion. Plenty of bad policy coming out of President Trump, coming out of Kamala Harris. There's no shortage of bad policy. There's very little good policy. Lots of bad policy that seems to come out of both their mouths. No offense to anybody. Finally, the next story we're following is U.S. consumer confidence rises, which is fascinating to see when Americans become more pessimistic about the job market. That to me is a fascinating juxtaposition. A couple of things we're following. Obviously, anytime feel free to text Scott Becker, founder, publisher, Becker's Healthcare, founder, publisher, Becker Private Equity and Business, with suggestions for episodes, 773-766-5322. Thank you for listening and constantly looking for ideas and people to feature and so forth. And thank you to Chanel Bunger, the best in the business, our producer. Love working with Chanel. Thank you very much for listening to the Becker Private Equity and Business Podcast.